I would like to thank the International Continent Society for allowing us to present our work characterizing a novel phenotype of urinary incontinence, the geriatric incontinence syndrome. We have no disclosures. As women age from their childbearing years through menopause, urinary incontinence may change from the pelvic floor-centered condition to a multi-factorial geriatric syndrome as a consequence of the cumulative impact of predisposing, inciting, and intervening factors. Urinary incontinence has been a known geriatric syndrome since the 1970s. Geriatric syndromes represent unhealthy aging that may feature risk factors such as cognitive or functional impairment or impaired mobility. When present together, these shared risk factors may accumulate into multifactorial geriatric syndromes that include urinary incontinence, falls, pressure ulcers, delirium, and functional decline. My take-home point is that the geriatric syndrome of incontinence is complex, but poorly characterized and is without a clinical definition, making recognition impossible. We hypothesize that incontinence, the syndrome, represents a novel phenotype of UI unique among older women with risk factors of functional and cognitive impairment and/or impaired mobility. We aim to establish a foundation for the phenotype of the geriatric incontinence syndrome and present novel prospective data to characterize the pelvic floor function, physical and cognitive performance, and disabilities of women older than 70 years with at least moderate UI symptoms to identify unique features of the geriatric incontinence. This is a cross-sectional analysis of our baseline data. We included community-dwelling women older than 70 years identified as having UI based on ICD codes and confirmed via the QID questionnaire. Exclusion criteria are as listed. We used valid and reliable methods to assess function. The short physical performance battery and its expanded form were used to assess physical performance. The Montreal Cognitive Assessment determined cognitive health. Sarcopenia was assessed using the SARC-F questionnaire, as well as gait speed and appendicular lean muscle mass index gathered from whole body DEXA. Physical activity was assessed using validated digital assessment tools, and pelvic floor function was assessed using the PERFECT scheme. A total of 80 women completed in-person screening, with 9 screen fails and 10 who did not return their baseline diary. Those were excluded, leaving 61 women included in this analysis. To test the hypothesis that UI severity is associated with poor physical performance among older women, we grouped women based on urinary incontinence severity, with moderate being defined as less than 2 leak episodes per day, and severe being defined as greater than 2 leak episodes per day. Test of difference utilized students' t-test or Cox and rank sum or square test for continuous and categorical variables. Our results. The average age of our participants was 77 years. Severe incontinence was common, with 69% having more than 2 episodes per day and 31% with less than 2 episodes per day. Daytime voiding frequency was 7, and nocturia was present equally between groups. Our demographic characteristics were not significantly different based on UI severity. Cognitive function was also similar between groups. Older women with severe UI had objectively weaker pelvic floor strength and slower fast contractions. As hypothesized, women with severe urinary incontinence symptoms had overall worse physical performance, featuring short physical performance battery scores of 9 or less. Chair stand subscale scores were significantly slower among women with severe UI symptoms. Women with severe UI also demonstrated significantly slower gait speed. Subjectively, they reported greater difficulty with walking a quarter of a mile, walking up a flight of stairs. They also had greater difficulty with activities of daily living as well as mobility. Similar to other geriatric syndromes and the condition of frailty, the geriatric incontinence syndrome may reflect an accumulation of deficits in physical performance, strength, and cognition. We examined cumulative deficits based on UI severity to include chair stand pace, gait speed, grip strength, MoCA scores, SARC-F, greater perceived difficulty with walking a quarter of a mile or up a flight of stairs, physical performance, and the feeling of fatigue. We observed that women with severe urinary incontinence symptoms had significantly higher number of these cognitive, physical performance, and strength deficits compared to women with moderate UI. In conclusion, the geriatric incontinence syndrome is a newly characterized phenotype of urinary incontinence. Our findings indicate that this syndrome may be clinically identified in women older than 70 years with more than two UI episodes per day, poor physical performance, slower chair stand pace, slower gait speed, and who are at increased risk of disability with mobility and activities of daily living.